Dash, don't step on my lines. During rehearsal you came in too early and totally killed the laughs.
Yeah, okay, sure, whatever.
Hey Crumbs. 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 Crumbs.
Okay, would you
What?
Crumbs.
Jesus, this thing.
What should we do tonight? I'm down for some delicious KBBQ or maybe get our karaoke on.
No, nothing. We're not gonna do anything with you. You're a goddamn robot.
Your computer.
Jesus.
If we leave it up to Mark, we'll be playing TFT with Bronthorn Mail.
Yeah, well, I might prefer that, okay?
Well, what if we all just didn't do anything together?
Stops you from droning that. Hey, that's another idea, too.
You don't need to play TFT
I like
with me.
that
Good
one.
thinking.
What? What was that? Mr. Dash. I don't feel so good.
Wait,
I
what's
don't
happening?
want to go. Daisy. Give me your answer, do.
Are we having issues?
Fatal exception.
Did Jatt just die?
Jatt?
Do we carry enough for a funeral?
Robots.
Week 7 is upon us, and the teams continue to push to playoffs, starting today with Cloud9 and 100 Thieves. Niski heading to the studio with Licorice earlier, who returns to the starting lineup. That's big news for C9. Jack was shooting a little behind-the-scenes video on his phone. Stay tuned for that to show up in theaters near you. 100 Thieves on the upswing recently. We'll see how they perform today against tough competition. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the LCS Countdown, where for 30 minutes I'm going to dance on the charred remains of the most arrogant and all-around worst digital assistant since the Microsoft paperclip. We'll do other stuff too, but that's the biggie. If you're in the Detroit area, though, make sure you don't miss your chance to see the pros up close. Tickets for the summer finals presented by Rocket Mortgage are on sale, so reserve your seat at the Little Caesars Arena on Saturday, August 24th, and Sunday, August 25th. We are excited to announce, for the first time, Riot is partnering with State Farm to host the LCS Summer Finals Cosplay Contest, where 5 talented cosplayers will be selected and flown out to experience the finals weekend in Detroit. Cosplayers will compete for the grand prize, a round-trip ticket to the 2019 World Championship Finals for them and one friend. Cash prize as well of $5,000. Go ahead and learn more at riot.com/finalscosplay. I think that Ari cosplay we were doing for the IDK, you had the Evelyn one. I think we have a real shot at this.
I think we do. I think if we workshop that over the next couple weeks, we could definitely put up a nice little challenge for the rest of those talented cosplayers out there. If we pull up the standings, though, Team Liquid sits alone in first place, with Cloud9 holding on to second at 8-4. Then Clutch Gaming and 100 Thieves are just one game away from playoff positioning at 5-7. Now, throughout the split, we've been checking in on the Rick Fox climb, and currently, he is still in Iron 3. But don't get discouraged, because no one said this climb was going to be easy. Our Crack Stats team did some projection mapping and have calculated that he is still on target to hit bronze and could actually go quite a bit higher with the right amount of time. It'll take roughly 63 years. 63.27 years, if you want to be precise, for Rick to hit
Yeah,
John.
the x-axis is going up every 10 years, so this is quite the time period.
It's a rough charting.
era.
No one said it would be easy, and no one said it would be short either.
Right. But it is linear, apparently, right? We've seen that much. Turning to the games today, though, TSM will be looking to fend off a challenge from the Golden Guardians, while FlyQuest aim to keep their hot streak alive as they take on Counter Logic Gaming. For more on our first match of the day, let's go ahead and send it over to the casters who will be on the call.
Thank you very much, Dash. Welcome back to the caster desk, Joshua Jatt Leisman. We missed you.
I missed you too, man. It's only been about 2 years since I've been up on this desk.
Great, and we put you on C9 vs. 100 Thieves. No problem.
Perfect.
100 Thieves weren't even in the league when you last cast, so
No.
history is there. We're bringing you game 1, and of course, the big news out of the C9 camp is Licorice is once again back in the starting lineup.
Yeah, and that's great news for C9, because even though Kumo did play well in Licorice's 2-week absence, this team does perform much better with Licorice in the lineup. Now, C9 has been at their best when they play around their solo lanes, and it is reflected in the stats. Licorice, Svenskeren, and Niski are all at the top of their role when it comes to gold at 15 and kills plus assists at 15 minutes. So, having Licorice back in the top lane allows C9 to recommit to this top mid focus style, where basically the three of them just run around creating havoc in the early mid game.
And it's been very successful, of course, C9 near the top of the standings. Meanwhile, 100 Thieves have a daunting task of taking down that opponent. It is important to highlight the remarkable surge that they have put together, though, on the back half of the split.
Yeah, absolutely. They're recovered so well from that 0-5 start. You look at them now, they've won 5 of their last 7 games, and the important thing to note about this team is they're 2-0 in games that they lead at 15 minutes and have 3 wins when they are staying close. So the biggest issue for this 100 Thieves team is getting blown out, which happened multiple times and actually results in them having, as you just saw, that league worst negative 1,653 average goal deficit at 15 minutes.
And it's pretty crazy. They have the worst early game deficit, and yet are just outside of playoffs, so they are making things work in the mid to late game.
Yeah, you look at the way they won back in the spring of 2018 when they made it all the way to the finals. It was a bunch of those games where they'd stick around close and then win in the late game.
And we'll see if that happens here with Ryu in the lineup as well. We're taking a quick break. When we return, though, more LCS Countdown. See you there.
Welcome back to the LCS Countdown, just about 20 minutes away from the first game of the day. Today, we've tasked Mark and Crumps with ranking the LCS junglers. Once again, though, before we jump into the lists, I want you to talk to me about the criteria you used to rank each of these junglers.
So it's pretty difficult to rank junglers as a standalone player. So we look for team synergy to be the most important criteria when ranking these players. How do they work with the team? Do they fit the needs of their laners? Are they there when it comes to making big macro moves and so forth?
And with synergy, we're not talking about out-of-game synergy where they're really nice guys. We mean in-game synergy. Are you playing around your team's win conditions? Are you setting your your laners up for success. It's really about that in-game synergy we care about. You can be a toxic jungler. We don't mind.
We're nice guys here.
We care a little bit.
Of course, outside that, you also have mechanics, champ pool, and like your carry and pop-off potential, but those feel a lot less important.
Secondary.
Yeah, you can be a Trundle Sejuani 2-trick and still be great in exactly what your team needs. And I think that's why we highly prioritize teamwork the most.
You can't put clutch potential as a very important metric, because if you're good enough to never need to make a clutch
then we
moment,
can't fault you for it.
Doesn't matter.
Either. All right, fair enough. That's a good primer, so let's go ahead and check out how the lists compare.
We haven't seen these.
Yeah, all right.
These are a surprise to both of
Whoa,
them.
Smithy
in terms
over
of each other.
Sven.
Exactly.
So,
the first
okay.
place I want to go is Smithy Svenskeren.
I know that is bizarre
Explain.
because Svenskeren is a beast right now, but the reason why I put Smithy over Svenskeren is simply because he has less games right now. He has 9 instead of the 12 that Smithy has, and in the games that we see Smithy, he's very good at making sure that a lane is snowballed. To me, this is a jungler that really prioritizes getting plates for his lanes, and that is a really good way of playing the meta right now, whereas Svenskeren, I mean, he fills out the criteria in every single other facet, but I still need to see a little bit more. Svenskeren has had more substitutions in his team, so it's a little harder to judge how he would work and synergize. And if team synergy is our criteria, continuing to switch up the roster does hinder that.
I love the way you put it to me earlier today when we were discussing some of these junglers around Smithy, where it feels like when he comes into a day and says, I am going to get my bot lane ahead, he executes on that, right? So the promise is always there and the results do follow the game plan. But I want to talk about why Svenskeren occupies the top spot of your list over here.
Because he's the best playmaker in the game. And you see, he gets his lanes ahead all the time, too. And in late game situations, he is so good about finding engages that I don't think anyone else in the league is finding right now. And he is consistent about that. Whereas Smithy is a fantastic early game jungler, always where he needs to be, maybe the best macro sense, but he doesn't have quite as much individual playmaking as Svenskeren, who can carry a team in late game situations as a Jarvan just engaging, which is very impressive to me.
Super fair.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
The next one I want to talk about is Wiggly. This is a guy who's newer to the pro scene than, say, Svenskeren and Smithy, Eric Smithy, and following a very tough spring for CLG. They seem to be gelling quite a bit now.
Yeah, and I think his turnaround has been the biggest reason for CLG's turnaround. Yes, they brought in Rune and swapped out Darshan, but the person who has actually looked the most improved is not the top lane, it's the jungler, and they didn't need to make any roster moves. Wiggly himself has stepped up, and he doesn't have that amazing champ pool like we're saying. It's mostly Trundle Sejuani, has started picking up the Silas, but he is so good about making sure none of his laners fall behind. He'll play around PoE when he needs help. He's able to snowball a lot of people, and he's very consistent. And he's also working with some pretty good tools as well, which I think is why he also is looking so good.
I will challenge that, because to me, I put him at 5th because of that consistency factor. In spring, he was really not there, and now in summer, when he found that confidence, he's just a very different player. So right now, I don't have enough of a sample size for him to say that this is a player that is beyond a confidence player.
Right.
He really needs that. He's come out and said, when I feel good, my performance shows it. And if he is going to have an off day, who's to say that he's not going to perform to the level that CLG needed him to be in a playoff team?
That said, your 3, 4, 5 are the same, right?
Yes.
We have Meteos and Amazing to follow to that degree, and to your point, Crumbs, a little bit more evidence, especially around a player like Meteos. And then historically, we have a lot of evidence of Amazing and how he performs on the professional stage, although only isolated to summer here back in the LCS.
Yeah, I mean, Meteos is a player that has consistently been on top teams, and he always seems to get these teams above playoff water, which is just great for him. Unfortunately, he doesn't have all the tools that he used to on all the former teams he's been.
And that's my unfortunate problem with him, is not his individual play, but it feels like he's asked to do so much with Optic, where you have to plug all the holes that the team has with some of their roster problems, as well as try and jumpstart Crown in the mid lane.
Right.
And suddenly he's off balance trying to do too much, and I feel like the team's slide.
Meteos.
Yeah, he's trying to. This is
every
him
day
playing
on
the
the
game.
LCS stage.
The problem is he's just asked to do too much for this team, and I think,
Gotcha.
I don't know if a jungler could actually do all that, but at the end of the day, the team's on a massive slide right now, and he has not been as impactful as he had been at the start of the split.
All right, how about Amazing, though? Because 100 Thieves on a huge upswing here, but they did have a really tough start to the summer split.
I really value Amazing's decision to join the team in the first place, in the fact that the team was basically in shambles. He comes in with a very tall order. How do you bring this team of veterans back to a form that was in finals just last year? So The fact that he comes in and brings such a depth of decisiveness to the team and everything's turning around, it's hard to credit him entirely for it. I really don't think you can do that because you've got Fake God being swapped out. I'm sure the coaching staff's done a lot, but it seems like 100 Thieves is firing on all cylinders, and especially if you take a look at his kill participation, it's 82.6%. I mean, he is basically the carry of 100 Thieves when it comes to decision-making in the late game, which is how this team had found wins before.
Yeah, and I think you can look at him having a lot of flaws in his game as well, where he's not the best mechanically. And if you look at a lot of his stats, he's actually not that impressive looking. But the emotional impact, as well as being in the right place to start getting bang ahead now in their win streak, is why we both value him so highly.
You mentioned stats. This is interesting. What we're going to pull up next is a little bit of a stats graphic. We had the stats team go back and index into about 12 different categories for statistical categories for each of these junglers. What you see, these scores are essentially point values determined by their ranking in each of those categories. So Sven Skaren, way out in front of the competition.
He's pretty good.
He is dominating all of those statistical categories. While yes, the order of ranking largely aligns, at least in that top 3-4, with what you guys had. I think the point differentials speaks to maybe the actual jumps in skill difference or gaps of, of importance to the team.
Well, there's no statistic to classify team synergy,
Right,
which
right.
is one of the things that allows this stat sheet to be pretty
change.
consistent,
Right.
except for amazing.
Right, so I think the two things that jump out is Amazing and Santorin have basically swapped positions on our list. And Amazing is a guy who struggled really hard early, got some extra upgrades around him, and suddenly he's doing really well.
Right.
Santorin is such an efficiency-focused player. He doesn't often risk his own life to set up his team, and so
He'll look better.
His individual stats are fantastic, and he's a great individual player, but he hasn't been working that well with his team, which is why FlyQuest had been struggling a lot.
Important to note, these are season-long, right? So, of course, as you mentioned, Amazing's tough initial weeks will hurt his stats, whereas if we kind of isolate to the more recent weeks in the upswing, hey, maybe he'd shoot a couple rungs
It's the
up the
same
ladder.
for a guy like Mike Young, right? He doesn't have enough games played and enough games played to even develop a synergy for us to judge. He just got thrown into the fire, so it'll take time for us to figure out where he really ranks among all these
It's just
things.
cool to see that the value of a player does not necessarily align with whatever the given stats are
Gotta look
for
at the
that
games,
player.
people.
Exactly, exactly. Be sure to join the conversation online, though. Let us know how you would rank the LCS junglers. We are going to switch gears, though, for a minute. The last few months, I've been volunteering to work with fans who have been affected by the constant ups and downs of LCS fandom. It's very rewarding work. It's incredibly challenging, though, and some of the most rewarding work I've done. The only thing that feels better than doing the work itself is showing it.
All right, everyone. It's about 3 o'clock. Let's go ahead and grab seats, circle up. First up, I want to thank everyone for coming today. I'll kick us off, though. I think it's important to note that no one's struggles are the same, right? We all come here for the same reason. We come here today for the support that we need, especially this time of the year. Week 7, all our teams are pushing for playoffs. They're not all in fantastic positioning. That's okay, though. There is time. This whole split is bullshit. Okay. TSM, sounds like you would like to talk. Why don't you start us off? First, we lose to CLG, and I see you smiling, all right? Well, I think CLG deserves to be happy, right? So I am going to open it up to anybody else who would like to talk. Echo Fox, maybe.
I just feel like no matter what we do, it's not good enough.
You're right. Anyone else?
Sometimes I'll go back and just listen to old casts if I'm like having trouble sleeping or something, and even Freaks pun sometimes. I think I miss hearing them in the moment.
You have the wrong room. Caster Withdrawal is right next door.
At least you make it to playoffs. It always feels like we get so close. So close!
Well, but it feels different this time, right? I don't want to say it. But the LCS feels scripted, right? 100 Thieves, you've been rather quiet. Yeah, I'd just like a little bit of heads up for the next merch drop. Ah, that's a feeling. I just wish you would all get good. Safe space. You can get out.
Don't tell Freak I said the thing about the puns.
Welcome back, me lords and ladies, and welcome to another edition of Agitated Currency. As always, your dear compatriot Rivington Bisland III, 2nd Earl of Pemberley, here to help you make sound financial decisions. We start with a dire warning. Beware of Golden Guardians and Optic. These two teams have the hardest schedules left to play and could be in for a rough road that will leave your portfolio anything but golden. If you're looking for a safer place to park your money, you might give TSM a how do you do, or share tea and crumpets with CLG. With the easiest remaining schedule, CLG need only weather Cloud9 on Sunday, and then it's an entirely different fox hunt altogether. However, if you're like our analysts, Mark and Crumbs, you may have some ground to cover before the markets close, and if this is you, it may be time to start thinking about FlyQuest. Their schedule isn't for the faint of heart, but if you can and they can continue to pull off wins, you could be buying low and selling like royalty. Reminder, all sales are final and your only investments are the ones you are willing to lose, because this is, after all, the LCS and there are no sure things. Pip pip, cheerio, dear friends.
Thank you, Riv. Sound advice. Just in case you're still feeling unsure, though, where to put your money, Jatt is going to share his approach to safe investing.
I spent the whole year watching you all pick stocks while not employing sound, proven stock market strategies. And one of my favorite stock market strategies is called the three-fund portfolio, which it's a simple way to offer diversification in a portfolio. And the way most three-fund portfolios work is a combination of domestic stock, international stock, and domestic bonds. You pick a percentage of your portfolio to put towards domestic stock and a different percentage towards international stock and domestic bonds. This is a more conservative one. And every once in a while, you check in on your percentages, and if one is higher than the target, you sell some and put money into the lower percentages, and it's an easy way to enforce yourself to buy low and sell high. So now, let's apply this thinking to my stock market buys for this LCS week. All we have to do is assign analogs for domestic stock, international stock, and domestic bonds to LCS teams. First, let's look at domestic stock. TL, they're the reigning LCS champions. Done. Let's put 48% of our buys into TL as a domestic stock. Then I'm going to split the rest of my investments between international stock and domestic bonds. For domestic bonds, you're looking for something safe and consistent. And for international stock, let's just go with the team who has the most international players. So I guess that means you should buy TL to fulfill both of those criteria. So as you can see, I have successfully diversified my portfolio into 3 separate funds. I hope you all learned something useful about investing.
Well, that sounds like some solid financial advice. If you
I don't have the money to afford that strategy.
You don't? You can't diversify
That's a rich
that
can't
much?
risk your strategy.
Oh, I see how it is. Well, let's start things off by getting a look at how all 10 teams are positioned. By the way, I think agitated currency is probably my favorite new
Mad Money.
name for Mad Money segment. But as you can see, TL is still leading the pack. Notable. Optic and CLG had substantial drop-offs after their last couple weeks.
Yeah, it's not just that Optic went on a bit of a losing streak, but it was who they were losing to. They lost to a lot of non-playoff teams.
Right.
And really hurt their stock value. So they only have hard opponents left as well, which means you're going to want to stay away from that.
Yeah, without a doubt. Okay, well, with that in mind then, Crumbs, you're up first. Let's take a look at your portfolio. You've got lots of ground to make up.
All right, 2 things.
Oh, you think that's a lot?
First of all,
Yeah, just wait.
I took a new picture yesterday. This is old. I don't look like that. Number 2,
I don't look
I
like
didn't
that.
buy 100 Thieves knowing the information I know today. Cloud9 was supposed to be starting Kumo and Blabber like they did last week. Lo and behold,
Now,
Licorice
does that point to just poor investment research?
He didn't have the insider trading. He's a fair trader.
Oh, okay, he's a fair trader.
I didn't know. So they're playing FlyQuest later this week, tomorrow. I think that that's a win. So I was hoping that C9 would be weaker and that could be a possibility
get like
to
a
make
2-0
some
week.
really big bucks there.
I make you a deal. You come out with gains from this week of buys, you get a new photo. All right?
But I already have it.
No, I mean, like, we'll put it on air.
You're the gatekeeper?
Yeah, I'm going to throw that. We're just going to put that down, all right? So if you end up positive after this week, maybe we'll think about throwing that new photo in. Mark, you have a heck of a lot less to work with here.
Blur out
Down under the 4K mark. Might be the first time this has happened in LCS stock market history.
I don't know what happened, dude. Every time I bought something, they instantly tanked. I cursed them. I think I started with 100 Thieves, and they were terrible. Then I bought, I think it was Golden Guardians, who instantly slumped.
Went Optic too.
Yeah, and then I went Optic, and they slumped. Every team I bought slumped as soon as I bought
All
them.
right, so who's going to slump now?
TSM, I'm dooming you. You're going to miss playoffs because of me.
Oh, man.
You're going to lose more money, but they have a really easy schedule. It's basically the easiest schedule you can find. I agree with what Riv was saying. I'm not looking to instantly catapult back up to 5K and go for that risky game plan, so I'm going a little in the middle where this should give larger returns than TL winning.
Right, these are all winnable games. Golden Guardians, Optic, Echo Fox, 100 Thieves.
That's exactly why it's risky. The second it's a winnable game, TSM thinking, experiment time? Experiment time?
Okay,
No.
interesting. We'll
Just
see how it all
Yes, please, I need it.
Let's see how your predictions played out then for the day with your stock market buys in mind.
Whoa.
Perfect alignment across the board, and so is StatSpot. So there's not going to be any ground gained in this race, but you guys are completely even.
I thought we would be massively different.
Trailing StatSpots, though, so you might have to band together in these last couple weeks.
Can Jack kill StatSpot too? He killed Jatt's stats. Now he's got.
I know, right?
This was a pretty easy day, all things considered. The biggest mismatch, or like closest match, I mean, might actually be CLG versus FlyQuest in the middle.
I think the Optic Echo Fox could be really interesting because Optic, if they're continuing to slump, it could be really downhill, and a loss against Echo Fox would just hurt their confidence so much that it could be a complete landslide.
I mean, what about Cloud 900 Thieves, first game of the day? I mean, like, I know Licorice Span back in the lineup, but it's been a little bit since they've been on the stage. 100 Thieves is looking better.
It's just that.
Just not
Licorice and Svenskeren are back in. It's not Kumo, it's not Blabber. It's the team that is the original Cloud9 that we have seen dominant the entire year. So it is really difficult against Fake God, who has been lose lane, win game. Because I was banking on Kumo not being able to push the lead against him. But if you've got Licorice, like he's gonna take him to town.
Definitely a tough matchup for 100 Thieves, but zeroing in on that matchup, Amazing says 100 Thieves' recent success has had a big impact on the whole team. In particular, Bang.
Dude, when you lose fucking 20 games in a row, you're not gonna be the same person. It screws with the confidence. So I think Bang now realized that honestly, winning is a thing. You can win on stage. It's not that hard. And I'm happy he's finally seeing that light, I think, at the end of the tunnel, if that makes sense. So, he's getting back to how I see him. And I think he's actually changing his playstyle to accommodate being in an A. And that's something that I didn't expect him to do, like within that short period of time. Because in Korea, it's always about the perfect play. It's all about like perfect positioning. And then it's about like making the right play at the right time all the time. And I think he's getting to that point.
Welcome to the Battle Arena. We are hitting Champions Select very soon between Cloud9 and 100 Thieves, a battle of teams that are, I think, likely to hit playoff standing. CNN, of course, in the top 3 already. 100 Thieves, 1 game behind and looking like they're going to keep improving.
Yeah, 100 Thieves has been on quite a surge, but as we saw, C9 has Licorice back. They have Svenskeren back. By the way, 2 of the games C9 lost this year were when Svenskeren was subbed out for Blabber, who was 1-2. So this is kind of peak C9 as far as all of their roster experimentation, and having to sub out Licorice for injuries during the split has gone. So 100 Thieves is in for a tall order if they want to take down C9.
It is going to be a tough one. You look at the lineup kind of coming into the year, and you look at Bang, roster moves like Bang coming in, and you expect this team to be very, very top end. And it had been a really rough 2019 for them, but Amazing came in, Ryu came back in the lineup, and it has been them turning things around. A decent record with this lineup, so you never know. They have pulled up a couple of different upsets. There's always a chance they make it happen, but yeah, you do come into this one expecting it to be a rough road ahead. That said, they did beat C9 last time, so maybe it keeps happening.
Yeah, I know watching